Town Square Media Station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni speak. And we learned some big, important things today. And we're going to get into this hour of Game Night, the Power Hour here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. We're going to talk with NJ Advanced Media Eagles beat writer Chris Franklin. He was at the press conference. Of course, the Eagles had their end of the season kind of state of the team moving forward conversation. Obviously, much more weight to this press conference than some others for Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni. And it's not just because they lost the Super Bowl. It's not just because they have a lot of free agents they got to make decisions about. And it's not just because Jalen Hurts is got to be signed to a new contract. It's because of the fact that this organization now has to fill two very important roles for what happens on the field, the two coordinator positions. And it's amazing how when you let people speak for themselves, you learn a lot about what they're doing. So we'll get deeper into some of the points with Chris Franklin in about a little less than 20 minutes from now. But as always, you can join the conversation. I want to hear from you guys. 609-403-0973 on the text board and your DMs in 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle, because I thought there were a couple things that were said at this presser that were incredibly eye-opening. And I thought it was very interesting because Sirianni got most of the questions in this presser. And Sirianni, not everything that was said to me was really that big a deal, but there were some specific things that were said. And there have been a lot of conjecture, and there still is going to be until they actually make the hiring official, which we will get to the timeline for that in just a bit. But Sirianni's an offensive-minded coach. And he basically came out and basically put his foot down on one specific point, which is who is going to be the play caller next year. Because remember, Sirianni started the 2021 season as the offensive play caller. Halfway through the year, he handed it off to Shane Steichen. So since Steichen took over, the Eagles, they've only lost 5-6 times overall in that stretch of time. So will Sirianni take back the play calling now that Shane Steichen is no longer here? I think this answer tells you a lot about who Nick Sirianni is as a person and a coach.
It does help me manage the game better, in my opinion. It helps me interact with the players more on the sideline, right? And, it helps me be able to discuss something that, with somebody upstairs, to get on the defensive headset when an offense is up, vice versa. So, yes, that will be my intent, to let the next offense coordinator call the game. And, again, I feel like we've seen benefits from that. Again, I just feel like my ability to manage the game, I feel like I do a better job managing the game when I don't have the.
That is a mature, honest, genuine answer from the head coach. That shows you a level of maturity and a level of self-awareness that, frankly, probably about 95% of the human population doesn't have. For Nick Sirianni to come out and say, look, I can do my job better. I can help this team better. I can do more when my focus isn't only on the offensive play calling. Nick Sirianni is probably, when he's saying that, thinking about how many times potentially this season where if he was play calling, he might not have been able to pay attention to something else. You heard him say, hey, I can talk to players on the sideline. I can put the defensive headset on and see what's going on in those conversations. Sirianni wants to be the CEO of this football team. And being the CEO of this football team got this organization to a Super Bowl in only his second year as head coach. And in many ways, Sirianni's not trying to be Doug Peterson. He's not trying to be Andy Reid. He's not trying to be Dick Vermeil. And he's certainly not trying to be Buddy Ryan, who never won a playoff game. No, Nick Sirianni is trying to be the best version of Nick Sirianni. And I think it's an incredible insight that he had when he says, look, I don't think that it's in the best interest of this team for me to be the play caller. So when he says what he says about Brian Johnson, the Eagles quarterback coach, at this presser today, it leads me to think that if Brian Johnson isn't the team's OC for next season, it's going to be the biggest upset of the offseason.
Brian stepped right in here and had a great relationship with our quarterback, dating back to when our quarterback was, however old he was. And so the relationship means a lot, and the trust was automatically there, right? A lot of times you have to develop the trust, but that was there. And then with that, Brian's great with not just Jalen, with everybody, right? He can adapt and, just be able to connect with anybody on our roster. And that's offensively and defensively. And that's one thing that I think that Brian's special at.
He connects with the quarterback. He connects with other players. He's great at being able to do that. It sounds like to me that he's saying, hey, Brian Johnson's the kind of guy that I want to be my offensive coordinator. And by the way, Sirianni didn't stop at just the relationship with Hurts and his ability to have a relationship with the other players. Sirianni basically put out there that Brian Johnson has already been involved in the game planning and play calling process for the Eagles.
Brian's also very gifted in the sense of helping be able to scheme. Even though he wasn't the offensive coordinator last year, he still helps a great deal with our schemes and our way we're attacking defenses in the run game, in the pass game, in the protection world, in situationals. So yeah, he's been a great influence, obviously, for Jalen, and Jalen's done a nice job, obviously. But it's a good relationship of those two guys, and because I do believe that's helped Jalen become a better player.
So Sirianni's telling you, I don't need to be a play caller. Brian Johnson's already involved in the play calling process. The Eagles made it very clear that they are going to re-sign Jalen Hurts this offseason. To me, it sounds very clear that this organization is going to go through the process of interviewing coaches for the offensive coordinator job, but it's basically Brian Johnson's job to lose. And on the flip side, that defensive coordinator situation is interesting because Nick Sirianni was asked a question that I told Mike Gill earlier on the Sports Bash show on 97.3 ESPN that I wanted to ask. And for someone like me, who is working as a producer for the Sports Bash, hosting here on Game Night, doing work with Billy Schweim in the locker room Saturday and Sunday on the weekends, doing all the different things I do, there are things that I want to hear about that don't always get asked at press conferences. So when I get a question that gets asked, I get a little excited, honestly, because I'm like, oh, that's a topic that I'm interested in. Nick Sirianni was asked about, is there a timeline? Is there a window that you want to get this defensive coordinator locked in? Sirianni was very specific about what he expects from this process.
We want to get it done as soon as we can, but not be in a rush. I think that's the best way to say that. We'll be diligent because we need to be diligent. And if it takes us interviewing 9 coordinators like we did with the running backs to get Jamal Singleton, we'll do that. We'll get the best person that can help us, be a good football team. And so no timeline. Are we working with urgency? Of course. Are we working in a rush? No.
So we may not get these official announcements, by this time next week. I think it's fair to say that I think the Eagles want to have these folks in place before the combine because of the interview process, but it doesn't sound like they're going to, they're not going to not go through the full breadth of what they're looking for. And the final point that Sirianni made in the presser today that I thought was very interesting, because to me, who he hires is, going to say a lot about how he, views things. And when he was asked about the defensive coordinator job, about, what was done last year, what they're going to do moving forward. And I thought when he talked about his core thoughts, his beliefs, his things that he wants from a defensive coordinator, the answer was missing something very important. Take a listen.
There's core thought processes that I have on defense. There's going to be things that, yes, I like a lot of the things that we're doing on there. Yes, I do. You think you're going to see that I really believe in the turnover differential. I really believe in the explosive play differential. And so there's things of that nature of that defense that I like. And then there's going to be things situationally that are non-negotiables, I guess to say, with me, whether it's 3rd and long, whether it's, tight red zone, whether it's 2-minute and the game plays, whether it's 4-minute defense, like backed up. I'm going to naturally have things that I'm going to require the next defensive coordinator to do. But I also know that I'm hiring somebody to do their job to the best of their abilities. That's why I'm hiring them.
Nowhere in that answer did Nick Sirianni say, I'm looking for a specific type of defense or a specific defensive alignment or a specific defensive scheme. He was saying, look, I want the turnover differential. I don't want to allow big plays to be had against my defense. I want us to play with a certain type of aggressiveness and execution and things in the red zone and in certain situations. And it sounds like to me that Sirianni is not dead set on, hey, I want to run John Gannon's defensive scheme. I think that he's looking at it as, look, if I interview somebody and they can show me that they can do and get the same results that I want with a little bit different looking defense, I think that is what Sirianni is telling you. Sirianni, to me, told you a lot with a very little bit in today's presser. He told you that he's not going to be the play caller next year, and that he basically put Brian Johnson on a pedestal. So if and when they do hire him to be offensive coordinator, why he is the OC. And on the defense, at no point did he say, I want to run this scheme. I want to run a 4-3 or a 3-4 or a Y9 or a cover 2 or a cover 3 or a shell coverage. He never said anything like that. Sirianni is a results-based guy that looks at the defense. And I don't think it's a coincidence that in this press conference, and I'll play a little bit later in the hour because we got to get to the break, but Sirianni said in this press conference, look, it comes down to coaching and execution on defense. And he pointed that was part of the problem they had in the second half of the Super Bowl. Sirianni's telling you, I want turnovers. I want to prevent big plays. I want to play a certain type of tight aggression in the red zone. So it sounds like to me that he's not looking for another Jonathan Gannon. He's looking for someone who can deliver him the type of results that he wants. And maybe it is a variation of Gannon's defense, or maybe it's something that looks similar to, or maybe it is another hybrid defense. But Sirianni is not beholden to a scheme. And that is intriguing to me, looking at the Eagles moving forward. We'll get to your tech villages a little bit later this hour, 609-403-0973 on the text board, and your DMs in the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Coming up next, Chris Franklin, NJ Advanced Media, Eagles beat writer. What is today's press conference mean for the Eagles offseason? We'll ask Chris next here on 973 ESPN FM 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Josh Hennig hanging out with you until 7 tonight.
Here's what you missed on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max.
I hope nobody had any questions about Jalen Hurts because he single-handedly kept this team in the game, man.
He did what he's been doing all year long.
This was on the biggest stage.
Yeah.
He played his tail off. And even the way he responded after the fumble by coming back the next possession and scoring that next drive, there's no question about what his dominance is.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Weekday mornings at 6 on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
This hour of sports powered by New Jersey Lottery Power X. Feel the power of winning up to 50 times more cash with New Jersey Lottery's Power X family of scratch-offs. Top prize of up to $3 million. Anything can happen in Jersey.
And now, a poem for all you lovebirds out there. Getting down on getting down. Some cars are red, others are blue. Trade in your old car and drive something new.
Fall in love with your new Nissan at Matt Blatt Nissan with 0% financing for 36 months, 0 payments for 45 days, and 0 money down.
Oh, yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
So bring any trade because AJ, the trade man, wants to buy your vehicle today. Regardless of the make, miles, or condition, AJ pays cash. Then treat yourself to a brand new Nissan Altima, Pathfinder, or Rogue, all with 0 down, 0 payments, 0 interest. And only Matt Blatt Nissan has a 4-day love it or leave it return policy. MattBlattNissan.com. Rate qualifications exist with approved credit 2778 per thousand finance on in-stock 2023 Rogues, Pathfinder Altima. Not all will qualify. Go to MattBlattNissan.com for complete details or call 844-917-4758. Price includes all costs paid by consumer, except for licensing, registration, and taxes. VIN PC 739900. Rogue S. MSRP 31,185. Doc 589. Sell price 31,774. Expires 23/23. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Tara, quote, "My doctor wanted me to do saline rinses for my allergies, but I've never been able to successfully use a neti pot. Navage uses suction power, so it's foolproof. There are nights when I'll have particularly bothersome allergies. I'll bust it out, and the results are immediate. It's such a relief. It's become a lifesaver," unquote. She's one of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
Hear ye, hear ye. Thanks for coming to the town square. First, I'd like to tell you about Steve. He's a plumber. I hear he does good work. Also, Tim. He's this new thing called a dentist. Oh, and Monica, she has a new vegan restaurant. I didn't even know that was a thing yet. Anyway, if you need those things, just wander around town and try to find them because the internet hasn't been invented yet, so I don't know.
This isn't the olden days. Now, word of mouth has gone online. At Town Square, South Jersey, we can show you how to harness the power of your existing word of mouth and amplify it online. Go to townsquarelocal.com for a free local customer analysis, where you can see how many local customers in South Jersey you could reach online. Visit townsquarelocal.com and be the Town Square today. That's townsquarelocal.com.
How long does it take to tackle a home project? With Angie, you could cross it off your list before this ad is over. Just tell us what you need, indoor or outdoor, repair or redesign, and we handle the rest, sending a top pro to get it done. You don't have to lift a finger, except to tap the screen or click the mouse. Plus, Angie is free to use. So bring us your next home project, and we'll bring it home. Download the app or go to Angie.com. That's ANGI.com to get started.
Hey, Coach, we need to score. What's the call?
We're going to wing it. We're calling the pick.
The pick?
Yeah, the one, the only, the original Piccalilli Inn to score some of South Jersey's best wings and homestyle favorites.
But, Coach, it's the middle of the game.
Pre-game, post-game, during the game, the pick's wings, tails, and ears are always the right call. They're right on Route 206 in Chemung, or check them out on Facebook. Now, who wants mild and who wants hot?
The Piccalilli Inn. By now, you know that sound. It's the sound of the Home Depot.
But what about those sounds? Those are the sounds of a new Frigidaire kitchen suite, complete with the latest technology to keep food fresh, dishes clean, and cooking needs met for all families. Making this the sound of savings on top brand appliances. The Home Depot, how doers get more done. Get up to 25% off select appliances, including Frigidaire, right now. Offer valid February 9th through March 1st, 2023. U.S. only. See store online for details.
Why would someone looking for a mortgage at the Jersey Shore take a loan from a company in Detroit or North Carolina or some other far-off place? Online mortgages promise a lot but don't always deliver. First Bank of Sea Isle City knows the Jersey Shore. We are local lenders. We use local appraisers and provide in-house processing. We understand the unique obstacles of financing in Cape May County. Don't take a chance. Local banking is better. Let us guide you. First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Game Night being brought to you by Jenkins & Sons. One call does it all. No need to call the drain guy, the heater guy, or the plumbing guy. No, just call 609-641-6262 for new heating and air installations, service and maintenance, ductless air conditioning systems, water heaters, boilers, gas furnaces, leak repairs, and more. Just call 609-641-6262. Jenkins & Sons. Yes, one call does it all. Visit them online at jenkinsandsons.com. You know, this Eagles season has been an absolute wild ride. It is not going to get any easier for our guest this hour, Chris Franklin, who covers the Eagles for NJ.com and NJ Advanced Media, as we move into the offseason and things are going to be just as busy for Chris over there, pounding the keyboard away for NJ.com. Chris, how you doing?
Not bad, man. It feels like the NBA. All of a sudden, 2 weeks from now, we're going to be talking about the combine and everything else going through that, man. It's just a crazy turnaround, but I'm doing well, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, all things considered, and I want to start with you with this. I thought that Sirianni showed an incredible level of self-awareness and maturity with his answers, because to me, I walked into this presser way more concerned and interested about their coordinator plans than I was about Hurts is getting a contract. I'm not worried about that. You know, I know they got draft picks. I want to know who's going to be coaching this team next year. And I thought Sirianni's answers were mature, showed self-awareness, and he sounded like a guy who said, look, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here. I understand what got us here, and I want to keep that ball rolling.
Yeah, I mean, he sounds like he's sticking to philosophy. If it's not broke, don't why fix it, you know?
Right.
You look at the way that this offense finished this year, you know, with being in the top 10 and in so many categories. You look at the defense, even though the way he went about it and the lasting impression you had was that loss to the Chiefs, the defense still was in the top 10 in some of those, most of those categories, important categories as well, too. So he's confident in the guys that he has there to bring in. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Honestly, I think the offensive coordinator is just deal is set. I think Brian Johnson is going to be the guy. It's just a matter of seeing who's going to elevate in some of those back end roles. I think Alex Tannen's going to be elevated, and then defensive coordinator. That's the one I'm a little not. I won't say concerned about who do they hire. I mean, I think Denard Wilson can do a very good job. Defensive backs goes to passing coordinator. They gave him extra responsibilities, and then I also look at a guy like Nick Rawls getting some play when it comes to an interview, and also I think you'll see Vance Joseph. I think he's scheduled to come in too, which. It goes against the norm. But overall, I think the way that Sirianni presented himself over this last press conference, and of course over the season as well too, is leaps and bounds over that initial press conference we saw when he was first hired.
Now, before we get to the defense side, I want to ask you about one of the things Sirianni said on the offense, because he made it very clear he's not interested in taking back the play calling. And it sounds like to me that Sirianni is basically laying the foundation by what he said about Brian Johnson. I mean, he spent almost 2 minutes just talking about Brian Johnson in the presser. Sirianni really sounds like a guy who he wants to run the football team. He doesn't want to be just a play caller. And he's basically sounding to me, he was saying, hey, Brian Johnson's already part of this offensive game plan, and I'm okay if he keeps doing that.
Well, I think especially ultimately when everything is said and done, no matter what happens, it's all going to fall on Nick Sirianni's shoulders when it comes to the final record and how this team looks. And he's going to, as a CEO type coach, I think you're able to get input and be in a lot of those other meetings instead of having to worry about, okay, well, I have to game plan for the opponent's defense and worry about the script plays that you're going to set up besides yourself. It allows him to go around to those different rooms. So I can see that. And then Brian Johnson, I think he thought of very highly around not just the league, but even back when he was in college, having a bright offensive mind, the way that he was able to help develop quarterbacks just like he had in Steichen as well, too. And I think Sirianni knows that, hey, you know what, he had the chance to call plays, but he knows now he can now move around and check out some of these other position groups. So overall, I think he's happy with doing that. It's what got him there to the Super Bowl this year. And I think offensively, I don't think this team's going to miss a beat.
Chris, as someone who works on my side of the sports media world, for people like me working as a producer and a show host, I'm always hoping questions get asked that I want to hear. And I was very happy to hear the question was asked about the defensive coordinator timeline. And I was encouraged to hear Sirianni say, look, we want to get this done, but we're not going to rush through this process. We had a situation, he said, last year where they went through, 9 different guys where they got to their running back coach. So I was personally encouraged to hear that Sirianni wants a thorough process and not a quick process.
Yeah, see, for me, it's twofold. I agree that you need to find the right guy. You have to find the person who meshes with your vision for the team. And I mean, if it could be 9 interviews done within like a week span, yeah, that's great. The thing I'm looking at and has me a little like, okay, you can't take forever beyond that is because the combine's coming up, because you have free agency coming up, and whoever's going to be the coordinator, defensive coordinator, you want to have their input of how this whatever player, like player X, player Y, player Z, how they could fit into the scheme and how you would use them when it comes to play calling. And I think you need those questions asked by the defensive coordinator to those players to kind of get inside the mind and see if this guy is ready to join your team. Because especially with 2 first-round picks, and you're going to have a bunch of compensatory picks and seconds and all that stuff. I think they have as of right now, I think they have 4 picks, maybe 5 in the top 100. You're going to have to make some serious decisions for this defense in the future, especially with so many free agents leaving. So it's encouraging to hear that they want to find their guy and go vet the whole process and go through it, but it just can't last 3, 4, 5 weeks to make sure they find that right person.
I think the thing that Eagle fans will be happy to hear, because a lot of them still have this irrational level of vitriol toward Jonathan Gannon, is the fact that Sirianni, at no point did he say, I'm looking for a 3-4, a cover 2, a cover 3, a Tampa 2. He never said a specific scheme. He says look for a defensive coordinator that wants to, get the turnovers, prevent the big plays, play a certain way in the red zone, not, be aggressive, things like that. At no point did I hear him say, Chris, I'm looking for a specific scheme. I'm looking for someone who can give me the results I want.
Yeah, you have to be open no matter what, because there's so many times when you look at coaches, and that's why I think you see coaches and coordinators get in trouble when it comes to saying, I'm just going to lock up on this, this, and this because I think this is what works and this is what I believe in, and nobody's going to tell me otherwise. I think that's why you saw, I know this is going back a while, but when you look at guys like Mike Martz, you didn't see him ultimately win a Super Bowl as a head coach because he was so locked in on his ways, and he never budged off of it. And I think that's key for any coach, for every player or any person overall. You got to be open to new ideas and to move on. So the fact that he's looking around, not just for the same similar guy that Gannon was, I think is encouraging. Now, would I like to see a more aggressive person come in a little bit? I think that would be nice. But as we heard Sirianni said, he doesn't want anybody to give up so many explosive plays, and he also wants to win turnover battles. So it's going to be an interesting balancing act that he's going to try to find in this new defensive coordinator, but gotta hope he continues to do as well, because being a number 2 defense overall and limiting those post plays and being up there when it comes to turnovers when the end of the season was ended, it's kind of important categories to lead in.
Yeah, and I thought that Sirianni, I don't think Sirianni ever took shots at Gannon, but I think he was honest though when he said, at least twice this year, he told you guys in the media, hey, I thought we didn't make adjustments on defense soon enough. Or when he said today, hey, it comes down to execution and coaching, and those are the reasons why we got to be better. I felt like Sirianni, he never at one point said, Gannon's as bad at his job. But I do think maybe there are things that Sirianni would like to see maybe a new coordinator do at least a little differently, right?
I think there's some things, but I think mostly that's Sirianni as a whole. When you look at the sideline, you see him. He always snaps his coaches sometimes. What you see during training camp, we saw it during the games, and I think there's a clip out there as well too. Like he will snap on his coaches when he doesn't get what he wants as well too. So I wouldn't be surprised if during that headset there was some conversation or some words going to say, "Hey, fix this." But I think the key that you're looking for, no matter what head coach, is to be willing to adapt and find out quickly what another team is doing to him. And again, I had issues with that, given the motion that the Chiefs were using, giving some of the play calls they were using, the route combinations of trying to confuse Patrick Mahomes into maybe holding the ball a little more so that pass rush to get home, even if they were on skates or not, whatever your opinion on that stuff is. But I think it's more, I think the biggest quality I want to see, not only when it comes to this defensive coordinator, of being able to get pressure and still being able to do coverage, is a willingness to adapt. They definitely need a defensive coordinator that's able to do that, to not have a repeat of what happened in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, because in the Super Bowl, they basically didn't make the right adjustments. You know, they ran a lot of man at different points on where they shouldn't have run man, you know, on defense, or they had situations where, you know, Gannon started bringing more guys on pressures, and he didn't get there, and it was leaving them vulnerable on the back end. So, you know, I don't think that Sirianni is good. Like, if you and I see things, Chris, I'm a big believer in this. If you and I see something, you know, the coaches see it, right? So I don't think it's a little thing that there were things that were specifically happening this season or in the Super Bowl that are going to be completely ignored moving forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do see like there's some things and I also put some of the onus on the loss on the players too. I mean, I looked at that interior defensive line and they didn't get a lot out of them. I mean, you saw Hargrave and Cox had their moments, but there were times where I saw like Jordan Davis getting wham blocked or pushed down the middle of the line. Next thing you know, it's a cutback lane for Pacheco, whoever was running through that hole right where he vacated it. So it's not entirely on Gannon, but I think there's enough where if you saw the same thing, you saw your defense getting beat on the same things over and over again, you had to make an adjustment, and it just didn't happen. Next thing you know, you look and there's the final score, and you're like, well, yeah, that's if I had to put a percentage of blame, I'd probably put 60%, 70% on Gannon, probably 20% on the interior defensive line, and then the rest on the holding calls and everything else.
We're talking with Chris Franklin from NJ Advanced Media, Eagles beat writer. Check out his work over at NJ.com and follow him on Twitter at CFranklin News. Chris, you mentioned the defense. There's a lot of free agents on that defense. So if I was just to take Jalen Hurts out of the conversation altogether, because we know he could get a contract extension at some point, how would you prioritize the free agents on defense of who you're going to bring back versus who you're not going to bring back? Like, how do you tier this?
I probably think I'd really want to bring back James Bradberry, because I think that you have two high-level cornerbacks and you're able to do different things. Say, if you want to play zone, get us zone happy, or if you want to play press coverage, I think they both can do that. I think Bradberry and Slay can both do that. So having those two on the outside is key, but I just have this feeling that Bradberry's going to get a big deal somewhere else, and all you're going to be sitting with is a third-round compensatory pick with him leaving. I think Javon Hargrave is another important piece that you have, because right now, going into it, you're looking at Jordan Davis and Milton Williams are your starting defensive tackles. I think they're decent guys enough to have there with another year of experience, but I think this team really loves to have two lines rolling right there, and you're pretty much bearing that. So you need Hargrave to be your starter, because he's still shown 11 sacks. He still can be an effective pass rusher and plug holes in the middle. C.J. Gardner-Johnson's probably, for me, is third after that, because I think the safety position, the way he did, he could play nickel and also being back there and with 6 interceptions and his anticipation, I think that was key. I think the fourth one, and it's going to be the toughest one you have to decide between, is either you're going to be T.J. Edwards or Kaiser White, because I think together, I think they played okay. They played okay this season, especially and I thought T.J. got better when it came to covering a lot of those flat areas. But the thing you have is you have Nakobe Dean sitting back there.
Right.
And we've seen what he can do when he has a lot more snaps and experience. He can really get out there. He can play in space. And so you got to depend. Whoever you sign, TJ or Kaiser, you're filling Nakobe with the other one. And I think Nakobe Dean can play either position. After that, I think you use a draft and you just see if you can get some team-friendly deals for some of those guys to return.
I feel very specifically about the linebacker position. I'm keeping TJ Edwards and I'm letting Kazir White walk for one specific reason. I think that Dean next to TJ Edwards is a better, more well-rounded duo than White is, because I think TJ Edwards has made amazing strides as a linebacker, going from being just a downhill backer at Wisconsin to being an all-around guy. And I feel like Dean being a sideline-to-sideline type guy fills that void to complement Edwards, whereas I feel like White and Dean are a little similar.
And this is what's going to be important when it comes to who your defensive coordinator is going to be. If you have somebody, say, like Denard, or somebody that comes from that, like Sean Desai, who comes from that Vic Fangio scheme, they love to have an athletic will linebacker, that weak side linebacker, to be able to play sideline. And then we've seen sometimes when the Eagles have gone in that dime look, that will shifts over to the middle linebacker and starts calling out the defenses. And I see what your point when you're saying when you want Dean out there to play next to TJ, because when you have Dean out there, middle linebacker, he still be in pass coverage as well too. I think the biggest thing is going to be how much he can withstand that wear and tear of the full entire season, being the guy as well too. He's not the biggest linebacker, but he's proven that he can find ways to shoot the gaps and to make plays as well too. So that's the biggest key, I think, as well too. When you're looking at Dean, if he can stay healthy that whole entire time, then you see what he can definitely do. And he hasn't shown any reason why that he hasn't been able to do it, but it's something in the back of my mind I'd keep a lookout for next season.
Is Brandon Graham back next year?
Oh yeah, I think he is. I don't think he's going to command a big salary, but I don't think he's going to get a big deal on an open market. But I think this organization has learned what happened when it came to Brian Dawkins, that when you have a guy who you consider an Eagle for life, even though I can say the same thing for Fletcher Cox, but I think Graham's going to be a little bit more affordable to keep on his team, and the impact that he's had on some of these younger guys, and a lot of these younger edge rushers as well too, and being a cap, I think he's going to be that. Fletcher Cox, I'm not sure, because I think there's going to be some teams, when you look at the defensive tackle, there's not that many, besides Javon Hargrave and a couple other guys, there's not that many bona fide veteran guys who you can just plug in whatever system and just go, okay, here you go. So I think we'll have to see Graham return. Fletcher Cox, I'm not sure, but I know the Eagles are going to try to do what they can to bring him back. On
the offensive side of the ball, we know that Jason Kelce does this every year. You know, he does the whole, I need some time to think about it. I need some time to unplug from football before I tell you yes or no for next year. We obviously know that there is a date, almost like a poison pill in his contract. He needs to make a decision by, we go through this every year. Is there anything in your mind or observations or feels or listening to the Kelce's podcast that makes you think Jason Kelce won't be here next season?
It's hard to tell with him, because we were talking to him afterwards, after the game, and he said like he wants to wait. You're basically waiting to see if he wakes up before the league year is March 15th. You're waiting to see if he wakes up one day. It's like, you know what? I just don't feel like going to Novacare and doing workouts, and my body's doing what I want to spend more time with family. And that's the toughest thing to see the guy, because it's almost like he had to be on like a mind mill. Like, okay, what's he thinking today? What's in his brain? I don't know. I don't want to be in Jason Kelce's brain, but you're kind of waiting for that, see what's going on with that. So it's tough to do that. I will say this: I think Cam Jurgens, no matter what, Cam Jurgens will be starting next year. I really truly believe that, because I think that somebody's going to offer Isaac Seumalo enough money, and he's going to be moving on. And I can see Cam Jurgens playing right guard if that's the case. But if Jason Kelce moves on in that one, I think then you have the money to re-sign Seumalo, and then you stick Jurgens right there in the center. But it's all going to depend on how Jason's feeling. But I think you'll see Cam Jurgens playing next year and starting.
One more on the offensive side of the ball for you, Chris. I want to know, for your perspective, I'm under the assumption that Miles Sanders is probably not going to be back next year. So do you think the Eagles are going to focus more on the draft or free agency, or maybe a little of both when it comes to running back position loading up for next year?
I think they're definitely getting one in the draft. I wouldn't totally rule out, from talking to a couple of people, I wouldn't totally rule out Miles Sanders not coming back. I think he is a possibility with that, especially it depends on how the market goes, because he's got two things. He's got two things working against him when it comes to there. I think when you look at Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, they'll be being the two bell cow backs that are out there. They're going to get lucrative deals. But then also you have the new running back like Bijan Robinson and those new crop of running backs coming out there. And you have Sanders right there in the middle because, teams are going to want the cost-effective back that won't bust the salary cap because we all know how teams value running backs nowadays. It's not like the 70s and 80s. But you still want a dynamic player. Like, you still would love to have a dynamic player like Jacobs who led the league in rushing, or like Saquon if he's healthy. That was a big asterisk next to that one. So it's one of those things where if Sanders could be on the market for a little bit, and if that's the case and his price starts coming down, you can see him coming back maybe like a 2-year deal. That's what I've heard from a couple to talk to when it comes to that way. So that could be a thing, but I wouldn't be surprised if this team selects a running back in probably the top 3 rounds in this year.
He's Chris Franklin. Give a follow on Twitter at C Franklin News. Covers the Eagles for NJ.com and NJ Advanced Media, as between the coordinators and the Hurts contract and then the draft with not 1 but 2 first-round picks and then all the 20-plus free agents in the offseason, Chris Franklin will be very busy and all over it this offseason. Chris, I'm sure we'll be talking throughout the offseason. Take care and try to get some rest, okay?
Oh, I'll try to. I'll have the IV bag full of coffee, Red Bull, whatever, just walking around because it's going to be one of those off seasons. It looks like. Thanks for having me on, man.
Just stay away from the Red Bull. There's a lot of negative side effects there, okay?
Yeah, it's too late for me. I'm done. I had a good life if I go at 50. I'm kidding.
Well, make some time at least for the Ant-Man movie. How about that?
Yes, I have to. Definitely have to do that.
Chris, take care.
You too, man.
We'll get to your thoughts and comments on the text board on the other side, 609-403-0973 on the text board, and your DMs in the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night on 973 ESPN.
It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey tonight on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app with Tim Saunders and Steve Coates calling all the play-by-play action.
He's in the right circle. He scores! On the power play.
It's Flyers Kraken tonight. Coverage begins at 10 p.m. It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey on the radio home of the Flyers in South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN.
Start the year off with a CD rate that, well, rates. For a limited time, Ocean First Bank is offering a 13-month term for 4.5% APY with as little as $10,000. Don't delay. Visit oceanfirst.com for complete details. Certain rules and restrictions apply. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Opportunity Lender.
For exceptional savings on your next BMW, visit BMW of Atlantic City. Lease a new 2023 BMW X1 X-Drive 28i for $559 a month for 36 months. Or lease a new 2023 BMW X3 X-Drive 30i for $599 a month for 36 months. Plus, we'll pay top dollar for your current vehicle. Visit BMW of Atlantic City, closer than you think. Located in Egg Harbor Township and online at bmwatlanticcity.com. For more details, call us toll free at 609-316-2393.
At the Home Depot, we know the world is a messy place. Keeping it clean takes science. That's why businesses everywhere have long trusted cleaning products from Ecolab to take on the toughest messes. And now, that level of clean is available for your home. Introducing Ecolab Scientific Clean, a full line of professional-grade cleaning products for all your home's needs, so you can clean like you mean business. Now available exclusively at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
The Maharaja Indian Restaurant is a place of peace and joy, and they want their guests to feel comfortable and welcomed. Their $13.99 buffet is open daily from 11:30 to 3 and is inspired to create the great taste that ancient Indian kings enjoyed. Maharaja is located in the English Creek Shopping Center in EHT. Looking for catering for your next event? They offer a full catering menu as well. Visit MaharajaRestaurantNJ.com or call 609-380-7347.
Hi.
Who's this?
Buzz. He appears whenever you eat Honey Nut Cheerios.
Like a genie?
Sure.
Ooh, does he grant wishes? I wish I lived in a giant boot. No, I wish I could swim with a humpback whale. No.
I can grant you a delicious bowl of High Nut Cheerios, which can help lower cholesterol as part of a heart-healthy diet.
Ooh, with heart shapes, too.
Happy heart-shaped Cheerios are back for a limited time. Pick up a box of Honey Nut Cheerios at your local store for an easy, delicious, and heart-healthy start to your day.
Every small business owner knows business can happen anytime, anywhere. The office, the warehouse, or on the road. And no matter where it takes you, there's one solution to help your business thrive. Comcast Business Complete Connectivity. It's the largest, fastest, reliable network with advanced gig speed Wi-Fi and cyber threat protection in one solution. Get started with internet for just $49 a month. Plus, add Comcast Business Mobile and you can save up to 60% a year on your wireless bill. And ask how to get up to $1,000 in prepaid cards.
Flight 291 is now boarding.
Yep, you're going places. And when you get there, be ready to do business. The complete connectivity solution from the company that powers more small businesses than any other provider. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Ends 2/21/2023. Restrictions apply. Requires EcoBill and AutoPay. New 50 megabits per second internet. Customers only. Equipment taxes and fees extra. After 12 months, regular rates apply. Gig internet required for gig Wi-Fi. Mobile Savings compares pricing of top 3 carriers.
Hail to the chief of steaks. Enjoy presidential savings on Omaha Steaks favorites, including tender steaks, ocean fresh seafood, air chilled chicken, and more during their President's Day sale. Go to omahasteaks.com and use promo code SIZZLE at checkout and get $30 off your order. That's $30 off an endless variety of delicious gourmet foods, from perfectly aged tender steaks to juicy burgers, decadent desserts, and classic comfort meals. Every bite is backed by their 100% satisfaction guarantee. Visit omahasteaks.com, enter SIZZLE at checkout, and take advantage of this exclusive offer. There is a reason why Omaha Steaks has been the leader of gourmet steaks and food since 1917. No one, and I mean no one, comes close to matching the flavor, tenderness, and value of Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com. Use promo code SIZZLE at checkout to get that extra $30 off your order. Minimum order may be required.
Hey, what's with the red, white, and blue tux?
I'm Uncle Sam.
Oh, that explains the hat.
Yes, people seem to love that.
So, what brings you to Springfield, Sam? Springfield Mitsubishi in Atlantic City.
Taxes, madam. I want you
to put my tax refund in the bank.
Oh, you're not spending it on a car?
Oh, I'm getting a new car. But all you need is a dime. One dime down at Springfield Mitsubishi, Atlantic City.
A dime? What a novel idea.
Ake is a brand new Mitsubishi's from 17.5.
17.5 for a new car?
Yeah, and you get a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty with as low as 2.9% financing.
2.9%?
Plus, if you bring home $350 a week, you can get up to $25,000 in credit.
Okay, I want you to put one dime down.
At the all-new Springfield Mitsubishi, Atlantic City.
In Pleasantville.
They service all makes and models. Springfield Mitsubishi AC.com.
Can I have my hat back?
New 23 Mirage, 17.5, dime down, $277 a month for 75 months at 5.55% APR plus tax title to qualify buyers.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Don't forget, the Sixers are at the All-Star break. They're not back in action until next Thursday. Flyers are in action tonight and Saturday night. You can hear both games here on 97.3 ESPN tonight. Coverage begins at 10. We coverage begins at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night as well. Let me just double check. Don't want to give you guys the wrong information. Yep, tonight at 10, Saturday at 10. Flyers on another West Coast road trip here. Both games here on 97.3 ESPN FM. And don't forget, you hear Flyers games also on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. You know, back to the Eagles, you know, it's one of those situations where you guys know all week I've been kind of pounding the table about where they should go with the coordinators. And I feel very, very strongly about it. And I thought that, you know, there was a message that came in on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. TJ in Millville said that I think if Nick Sirianni didn't like or want strong coaches, I think Stoutland would have been sent packing when Sirianni got hired. I think it's an excellent point by TJ. I don't think Sirianni is the kind of guy who's afraid of having strong people on his staff and working with certain types of personalities. I think that is something that both him and Doug Peterson have in common. I think that they're more than willing to let people be themselves and earn their keep. I think both coaches are not obsessed or hyper-focused on the guy doing what they want. They don't want yes men all the time. They want somebody who's, going to do their own thing. I think the real difference is, like you heard Chris Franklin say from NJ.com covering the Eagles. He said Sirianni's been seen yelling at his coaches on the sideline, having intense conversations at different points in time with his other coaches. And I think that, it takes a strong coach to handle a strong coach, but the other coach has to be able to take the heat too. We saw on that Hard Knock show that Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley were butting heads, and neither one of them were really comfortable with the other one basically, taking as forceful a position they did in those meetings. So, you look at the situation in Dallas, there's a lot of speculation out there that we haven't been able to confirm, but there's a lot of speculation by people who cover the Cowboys down there that, Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore weren't exactly getting along very well. And Kellen Moore was basically, used to let him go as an opportunity for Mike McCarthy to change up the offense, become a play caller again, and so on and so forth. So that's why I do like the idea of, the report is that Vance Joseph's going to come in and interview for this job. I hope he does, because again, nothing against, Denard Wilson or Tracy Rocker or any of those coaches in house, but I think that this team would benefit from having another, that tier of coach, a guy who's been around the league, a guy who is, respected by players, a guy who understands things. And, Vance Joseph wasn't all bad of coach with the Cardinals. I think Vance Joseph has a reputation because of two issues. One, he was not a successful head coach. So I think because he wasn't a successful head coach, people perceive him a certain way. They tend to look at him in a negative light. But, this guy, Vance Joseph, he played in the NFL as a defensive back. He was somebody who was a coordinator in Miami and in Arizona. And I think that you saw in Arizona that the following year, Hassan Reddick was there. Reddick had 12.5 sacks. So he was the first person to figure out how to best use Hassan Reddick. And in that season, that 2020 season that Reddick had the 12.5 sacks, that was the year that defense took their first step forward under him. They were 12th in the league in points allowed, and that their pass defense was top 10 in a couple different categories. So I think that Vance Joseph is a very interesting candidate for this job. And I still am not discounting some of these other guys who are out there, whether it is a Lovie Smith, for example, or, I'd have to double check who some of the people Sirianni coached with, because I think that Sirianni, it doesn't seem like he is beholden to just his background when it comes to coaching. I feel like he does have some ability to be flexible. I know that when he was with the Chargers, that's where he knew Shane Steichen from. But I think that's why people suggest Gus Bradley, because of the experience. I think Gus Bradley just wasn't a great coordinator. I think Gus Bradley is the guy from yesteryear. It's interesting. I'm very curious to see where this organization goes with DC, because I think that Sirianni, if I'm hearing what he is saying, he has made it very clear that he is looking for a specific style and type of coordinator. And I think that, looking at his background, looking at how the team played this year, looking at what he wants to do moving forward, you can surmise that this is a guy who is not beholden to a specific system, but he is interested in having the best man to do the job. As he said multiple times at the press conference, I'm hiring somebody to do a job. I think that's a big part of it. All right, thanks to Chris Franklin from NJ Advanced Media, their Eagles beat writer, for joining us today. I'll be back tomorrow for the final game night show of the week. Of course, Mike Yeldon Sports Bash starts at 2 o'clock tomorrow, and I'll be back on at 6 p.m. here on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app.
Our locally owned and operated small businesses are the heartbeat of our community, and the 97.3 ESPN South Jersey industry aces stand out as leaders in their fields, like Broadley's HVAC and Plumbing, a family-owned plumbing and HVAC company that's been serving Cape May and Atlantic County since 1911, and Maharaja Indian Restaurant in EHT. Visit MaharajaRestaurantNJ.com and take your taste buds on a journey. Support one of these fantastic industry aces today.